Hello, hello, everyone. Good Tuesday afternoon. I wanted to jump in and go Facebook Live to cover a subject that I've been going over a lot with my team. And it's one of the items that I've really tried to hammer in over and over with them, which is ultimately managing your pipeline. So, some of the things I wanted to make sure that I went over here was how we categorize leads within our system, how we even utilize our CRM, and just to overall kind of talk about follow up and how to perceive leads and move them in a track to where they can successfully turn into a deal. So, first, let me kind of jump in here on Facebook and see if I can see who's even there. Hey, Valentine. Hey, man, how are you? Hope all is well. Good to see you. Did you get a ticket to the Wonder Chamber event? Hey, Charlie, you got a ticket, right? I think you did. Kimberly, good afternoon. Glad you jumped in here. Jay, hello. I see you always working like the wee hours of the night. You're like nonstop over here, man. Kirk from California. Good to see you, Kirk. I appreciate you helping with the W-9. Trying to get the tax stuff done and finish the tax season early this year. Okay, so I got Facebook Live here. If you have any questions, let me know. I do want to cover it. You didn't get a ticket, so Charlie, make sure to send me a Facebook message at some point and mention that you would like to be on the hold list for the Wonder Chamber event. Now, we only have a set number of tickets for the event. And for everybody that's watching, let me just kind of briefly go over that event. That's going to be this Thursday. Hey, Rudy, thanks for jumping in. And Valentine, same applies to you. We have an event this Thursday. It's actually going to be a special event. I'm pretty excited about it. There isn't really a major intent with educating or, really trying to put information out there per se. We really wanted to focus on building an event where networking in its purest form, where you really just talk to people, you have fun, you meet people, conversations arise, you bump into somebody, and things come of that essence we wanted to really create and promote in a very special environment. Now, the Wonder Chamber is a pop-up museum here in San Antonio. It's off of Broadway, and it's a really, really cool concept, and I imagine there will likely be more of these type of locations popping up around town and probably in the nation. Does anyone know what a pop-up museum is? Anyone? Pop-up museum? This place is called the Wonder Chamber. Well, simply put, a pop-up museum is where a person kind of rents out a commercial space similar to how Spirit Halloween does, and they have it for just a few weeks or a few months, and then they kind of make these interesting exhibits and interesting rooms for people to participate in, and then it maybe goes away and it might come back. Well, this one has been doing so well and so successful. The owner is Robbie. He's a really cool guy, to where he's coming out with season 2 of the Wonder Chamber, and there's probably 6, maybe 7 rooms that are all decorated in unique and different ways. And the special thing about it is it allows you to kind of come in, take some photos, either of just yourself, hire a photographer, or family members or friends or whatever, and utilize it for social media or just for your personal use. Well, we rented out the entire space this Thursday. Hey, Michael. Hey, Norma. Glad you jumped in here. We're going to talk about leads and managing your pipeline. We'll go over that. If you have questions or comments, let's go over that. But quickly, I'm going over the event for this Thursday. We rented out the space for 2 hours, no more, no less, and it has a capacity of 80 people. We're sold out. And what we're going to do is showcase the opportunity to network. Our sponsors are going to be Jade Flores with Longhorn Investments. So if you need a hard money lender, she's going to be awesome. She's going to be there. We also have Unlimited Property Contractor Services, which is actually the contracting crew that Hillary and I use for our properties. They're awesome. They're amazing. Hey, Felton, thanks for jumping in. We also are going to have sponsorship from Dennis Cole, who's the water boy in San Antonio, going to be giving Kangen water, which is alkaline water, which is good for your system. And then additionally, we are also going to have Freetail Brewery sponsor the event. Hey Liz, thanks for jumping in, which I need to do a Facebook Live with you. And Norma, hello. Thank you for jumping in and watching and participating. We're going to go over a very important subject, I feel. But so they're going to be Freetail Brewing, Freetail Beers there, and 2 photographers that are going to be walking around. I think we're going to have one in one specific room, and then another one kind of wandering. You can just pull the photographer, say, hey, please take photos of me, that kind of thing. And it's just going to be a fun night. You can use those photos for your own social. If you have business marketing that you want to use the photos for, we're paying for the photographers to come out and take pictures of you. So utilize it. I think you'll enjoy it. But I kind of got on a side track here. Hey, Dave. Good to see you. I wonder how many more multifamilies you're going to buy this year. Liz and Tony jumping in. So you switched from just Liz to now Liz and Tony. But what I really wanted to go over was managing your leads and managing your pipeline. And when I talk to a lot of different people, in particular in review of what are they doing right now, and how can they kind of move to the next level on the amount of deals that they're doing, a big portion of that conversation focuses around like lead generation or finding buyers, or maybe they're trying to learn their contracts better and things of that regard. But it isn't talked about very frequently, the subject of actually managing the leads that you have in your system. Once they come into your system, how are they properly managed and treated with such a high level of respect and priority that you're always touching the lead in the right way, in the right manner, and you're always pushing that lead in the direction to where it could eventually lead to a deal. Hey Liz, hey. So I wanted to go over that. First, one of the key elements that I realized as I went through this process is you gotta have a CRM. That's a basic item, but it's extremely recommended. Too many people are having their leads in Excels, which can work, and notepads, and maybe they're getting leads through Facebook now, and they're working their leads all over. The first fundamental habit that you need to establish is putting your leads in the CRM and utilizing that CRM to organize the information properly and fully. So let me see if I can switch this around. Let me pull up let's see. I got a lot going on my screen. All right. Oh, Charlie, you're on it. Good job, man. All right, let's see. Can I move into Podio? And let's just pick any old lead. Let's go to this lead. Apple Valley. So some of the key pieces of information that we want to gather, obviously, is the address. We have a link here in our Podio system to where we can quickly click over into Zillow. It pulls up the address right away, and then we can have a very quick look at the Zillow estimate. And then we also want to know beds and baths, that kind of thing. This is the main element that I want to go over, which is the lead stage itself. I'll go over that in just a moment. We have a few other categories here. We want to know where the lead came from. It's important for you to track where the leads come from so that you can determine where your leads are coming from and what arenas you want, that you might want to double down on, so that you're replicating things that have been successful in the past. Okay. Now, as I'm going through this, hit me with questions. This is like pointless if you're not asking any questions. So ask me some questions. We got Jeffrey in here. Abdul, thank you for jumping in. Robert William Brown III, man. I know you got some good questions. And Yaniv, thank you for jumping in. And if you have any questions or comments, let's go over it. So we have a section to kind of categorize who is working the deal. We also have the owner information. If they have email, phone number, that's all put in here. Let me move this around. Okay, has our VA called this category right here? Oh, look, see, Alex is working right now. Good job, Alex. This category right here is one of the most important categories that I like to track. For me personally, at a snapshot, when am I looking at deals and which ones are important? I want to know these main items. You can skip the valid offer sent. But these three items: seller original asking price, seller current asking price, and our latest offer price. Now, the seller's original asking price is going to be what is the number they started at. When the very first phone call, the very first time you asked for a number of what they would want to sell for. Hey, Lorraine. Hey, Mike. Mike, you already are learning some of this. The very first number you asked for, what is it? What is their original asking price? Now, our goal is to take that original asking price and negotiate. This is where we're working on our negotiation skills. We're building rapport. We're learning more information about the property, and we're trying to get that property or that price point down. So then the second field right here, seller's current asking price, we want to get this number down. If they start at 55, we want to get them down to 50. We want to get them down to 45 and keep pushing that number down. Simultaneously, our number will start low generally and work its way up as we start from a very conservative standpoint with limited information, and as we gain more information such as running comps to get ARV and walk in the property itself to get rehab numbers, then our offer pricing come up, and then eventually there'll be an overlap and you can get a contract on the deal. Now here you can see that this is 6,000 apart. Some deals are 20,000. Some deals are 40,000 apart. Some deals are 13,000 apart. But what I want to do is consistently look at which ones are close from this number to this number and focus on those leads, because those are my deals that are the closest. And those are the deals that I have a really high probability of converting into actual contracts. That's important. That's critical. Hey, Junior, do you have a question about what I'm going over? Now, we have a lot more categories here that we go over when we run our comps and information about the property itself. You can see what neighborhood it's in, etc. Okay? But that critical information that you need in your CRM is putting what their original asking price is, current and latest offer. Now, the next item I want to go over is the lead stage. Okay? Now, we have a few main categories here for our lead stage. You need to have a basic layout similar to this one. So first, initial call. Okay, Valentine says I memorize everything in my head. It's your CRM. Hey man, if your head stops working, you're going to lose all your info. You got to have it in place that's easily accessible. Okay? Anthony jumped in. Hey Anthony. Victor, how are you, man? It's been a while. Hope all is well with the kiddos. Nina, we got to get together again soon. It's been a while. But the first category, Hillary says yes to that. First category is initial call. Okay, so all leads come in as an initial call. This means that they basically are a brand new lead and they haven't had an initial conversation yet. We haven't been able to find out anything really from the lead. We just want to have that conversation with the seller and start the conversation. So leads in this stage shouldn't last in this stage very long. It should be honestly just a few hours, no more than a day. Then we have negotiations. Now, first off, before we go into negotiations, from initial call, they're going to go in one of two directions. They're going to go in a direction where the lead's actually playing ball with you. They're negotiating. You're kind of in a reasonable price range with each other, and y'all are actively working together and negotiating towards a common ground of potentially getting a contract. That's one route. The second route, there's a fork in the road, okay? The second route in this fork is they're not working with you. They don't agree with your price point. They say they want $1 million for the house. They're not ready to sell right now, and they're rude. They want to get off the phone. That goes into the late follow-up bucket. And late follow-up needs to be your biggest category with the most leads, okay? The leads in this category are leads that just need to be touched at some point in the future and might get back on the track where you're playing ball with them, okay? So they go one of two directions. They're playing ball with you. They're going to go down the normal track of, hey, let's do a deal, which I'll go over all the steps. Or they're going to go in the late follow-up bucket, which you're going to keep following up down the road until they basically get activated. They're willing to work with you. So the first category in our progression here is going to be negotiations. You have the initial phone call, you're negotiating, they're at a particular price point, you're at a particular price point, you're trying to make a deal happen, they're willing to entertain phone calls, they're not rude to you, and you're working together. Now you might be far apart, you might be at 20, 30, 40 grand apart, but you're still in the realm of like doing the dance of making a deal happen. From there, we just give them preliminary information. We want to see what info they can get from us. Like, we're information gathering right now, and we're also planting the seed with potential offers that may or may not work, just to see how they react to it and see if you can get the number down. The next step is going to be your walkthrough schedule. Between negotiations and walkthrough schedule, you're going to be wanting to run comps, look at what's been selling in the area, look at what the ARV potentially could be, play around with the numbers of what rehab could be to determine generally where you want to be at price point wise. And you're going to be calling the seller multiple times. It can be quick, can happen all in one conversation, but multiple times to kind of see if you can get that number down. And every conversation, in my mind, is an opportunity to chisel the price point down. Too many people have the vision of negotiations where you're going through this process and then you land at a negotiation table. They're on one side and you're on the other, and you're just trying to make a deal happen. And then you're hoping for them to come down 30 grand. Well, the reality is every conversation you need to get 2 grand off, 5 grand off, 10 grand off. And if you add them up over all those conversations, then you can have a significant reduction in the total price point from their original asking price, which will eventually lead to a deal. All right, so I'm going over a lot here. Caitlin, hello. Thanks for jumping in. Chris as well. Does anyone have any particular questions about their leads, or particular questions about how they manage their leads, or how they have their own lead stages in their own systems? I'd be interested to see what people got, what they're working with. How can they move things around? Maybe we can get better. But from here, we want to go through a walkthrough schedule. We've already run comps, so we know ARV. The next item we want is rehab. And if you have a value and you have a rehab, then you can definitely calculate to find out a good maximum allowable offer. So you're going to schedule your walkthrough. That's a category where you schedule a walkthrough and you're preparing to go. At this point, you already have comps. Now, when you go to the walkthrough, your plan is to take a ton of photos, and you want to also take video of the property, and always take a contract with you. Hey Dave, Joe, Chris, I'm talking about when you go to a walkthrough, it is critical, imperative, 100% important that you take a contract with you. Dominique, same thing. You need to take a contract with you to the walkthrough. For too long, I was too afraid to do that. I never presented it. And I feel, for me personally, I found when I'm face-to-face with somebody, I have a much higher probability of getting them to come to the price point I need them to come to, and I need to have a contract to lock them up. As soon as I leave, even if we verbally agree, they're going to talk to their husband, they're going to talk to their wife, they're going to talk to their cousin, and the neighbor's going to walk by and say, hey, I want to offer this for the house, and you're going to lose them. So you need to take a contract to actually get the contract in place. Okay? So after the walkthrough scheduled, if you haven't got to an agreeable price and you haven't gotten a contract signed, then you go into final negotiations. This is your last major effort to really push them to the point where you can actually contract the deal. Hey, Colin, let me know if you have questions. Final negotiations is you finally have a concrete ARV number. You also have a concrete rehab number. So now you ultimately know where you need to be at. You know your numbers in and out. So now it's just negotiating straight up with the seller and seeing if they can meet with you to where you can have a win-win scenario at the price point that you know will work. If you get somebody to agree, then wonderful, you move into the contracted phase. But if you can't quite get there and you can't quite see eye to eye, maybe you're still $7,000 apart and you can't come up anymore because you know you can't move the deal or you can't close on it at those price points, then the lead goes to late follow-up and you just consistently follow up. Maybe that's a week from now. Maybe that's 3 days from now. Maybe that's 2 weeks from now because they're going out of town. But there's a follow-up date set into the future and you're reaching out. That's the main component. Hey, Freddie, just jumped in, man. Good to see you. Appreciate the hearts and the love and everything else. All right. So next, you're going to have a contract. Now, for wholesaling, that's a big step. You got the contract from the seller. Now you have equitable interest. You're written into the contract, and now you have something you can market and you can find a buyer for your contract. Okay? This is important. You need to have this categorized. During this phase, what you're doing is you're actively looking for a buyer. You don't have a buyer yet, but you're looking for a buyer. Now, once you find a buyer that's willing to lock up the deal with you and they sign an assignment contract and they give you a deposit, then you can change your category, your lead stage, to assigned to buyer. That's what's important. Okay, as you can see here in the, maybe you can't, my head's in the way. I wonder if you can move that. But my team's working our deals right now, and they're updating the lead stages and they're going through our leads and updating them. Kenneth and Alex are both updating right now. But assigned to buyer is you found a buyer, they signed an assignment, and they also dropped off a deposit with you. Okay. The next category after that is clear to close. You have a buyer, signed assignment, you have a deposit, and you received clear title, the title commitment, and you've solved all the issues on the title commitment. So now you have the buyer, title's clear. At this point, it's just scheduling closings. And then finally, the one that everyone loves is closed. You close a file, everyone gets paid, boom, good to go. Now, that close one's important for when you're running your own numbers. This is also why a CRM is important. You can look at data and you can look at what has closed. What is the average fee that you're making? That's important information. Where are all of your closed deals coming from? Not just when you're doing a campaign, not just the leads that you're generating, but which campaigns are actually leading to close and funded deals that are just putting money in your pocket. Those are the leads that you want to investigate and you want to review. Okay? Now, once you have all these categorized, every lead in your system should have a lead stage. And what your goal should be every single day is to sit down and say, what are the leads in the clear to close stage? Hey, Ethan. Hey, man. Appreciate you jumping in. If you got questions about lead generation, or not lead generation, lead management or CRM, let's talk about it. But when you sit down, you need to work at all your leads closest to closed and funded and backwards. So first you need to look at all of your leads in the clear to close. You can go into your CRM, you can filter based on that, and you need to, hey, all the deals that have a buyer, have a contract, and have clear title, those are the highest priority of my day. So that's the first thing I'm going to work on today. And you get them closed. After you've worked all those leads and you've done everything you had to do, talk to the buyer, maybe you had the title, schedule closings or whatever, then you go to the assigned to buyer category and you work on all the files that need title fixing. Maybe you need to get an affidavit of heirship. Maybe you need to go get a payoff from the city. You're working on those items so that they can move to the next stage. Then you work on your contracts. Okay, hey, I got these contracts, but I need a market for buyers. And you keep going backwards and backwards and backwards until that way you're always working your highest probability leads to get the closing, and you're always moving the leads forward to closing. Too many people have a lead that, hey, they already have it contracted, they just need a buyer and the title's clear, but right now they're cold calling a list to get new leads because they feel they don't have enough leads. That's a mistake. You need to focus on the ones that you've already put in all this work to get a contract. Continue the work to push for a buyer so you can get that one closed. You're already halfway there. Why would you spend time on a lead that they're just going to say fuck off and waste your time? Always work on the leads closest to closing. Highest priority. Now, the last thing I'll mention before we wrap up here is getting good at your follow-up game. Every single lead needs to have a follow-up task into the future. Whether you're calling later today, whether you're calling tomorrow, whether you're calling a month from now, every single lead needs to have a follow-up task. That's something that I ingrain into the head of my team members. If the leads don't have a task into the future, then they're going to fall through the cracks and you're going to miss critical windows to do certain action steps, and you might lose the deal altogether. Or you had a lead where the seller was wanting to sell to you. They liked your price point, everything's good, but they said, hey, I'm going out of town with my family for 3 weeks. Call me back after 3 weeks and we can talk about it. I'd be glad to contract then. I don't want to mess with this while I'm out of town. Well, if you don't put a task to call in 3 weeks and you forget, guess who else is going to be calling? Somebody else in your market, or even now other markets are virtual wholesaling where we're at. So if you don't put a follow-up task on every lead, you're going to miss potential opportunities to make deals actually close. So the three big things I would say is utilize a CRM to organize your leads. Then once they're in your system, you want to properly categorize them, utilizing lead stages. Now the ones that we have here are very basic and straightforward. There's a progression here, but you can have your own version and you can add your own lead stages. Maybe you want more than what we have. Maybe you want less. But have a system to where when you look at it and you look at your lead stage, you know where they are in the life of the progression of that deal or that lead. And then additionally, every lead has a follow-up. So no lead ever falls through the cracks, and you always are moving forward with every deal, moving them to the finish line, moving them to payday. That's ultimately the message I want to portray today. So before I wrap up, anybody have any particular questions or items that they wanted to go over when it comes to lead generation? Hey, Chris, good to see you, man. You need to come to San Antonio again. I missed you last time you were here. Jerry, thank you for jumping in. Hernando just jumped in. Hello, Hilco Homes. Somebody's representing. Appreciate it. But managing your leads is really a critical component. I didn't really realize this until I started going back into my pipeline and the leads that I was having and reviewing why I was losing them or why they weren't converting. And quite honestly, the reason is because I didn't put it as the highest priority for myself in managing my pipeline. And I really was deferring that responsibility to really no one or others. And that's something that I needed to take ownership for my pipeline, and you need to do the same thing too. If you're spending all this time and energy and money to even generate the lead, to get in your ecosystem, to even be calling and reaching out, you need to be spending even more time to make sure that they're always being touched properly, that they're always being moved forward to the next step so that you can actually convert that lead into a deal. So ultimately, that's the message I wanted to portray. That's what I wanted to go over. Jay had a question. Jay says, who do I use for CRM? We use Podio. And like I was showing at the beginning of this video, we kind of altered it and tweaked it in the category and priority order, I guess, or the progression of the web page in the manner that works for us. So we have like kind of our key negotiation information at the top. Then we progress down and there's more like information about the property, such as beds and baths, those type of things. But everything's there. The seller's information's there. Our comps are there. Our buyers, when we have interested buyers, are there. We have what our fee is going to be there. All the information's there. So it's very easily accessible and viewable whenever we want to see the information on that particular lead. Now we do have a secondary workspace for our closing team, and they have their own workspace, and they kind of have their own file per lead or deal. And they're the ones that are making sure we're getting our affidavit airships and we're moving forward and progressing with the title phase so that we can actually get the deals closed. But if you have questions about that, I can show you how to do that one too. All right, y'all. I appreciate you jumping in. I appreciate you participating. If you have other questions, message me. I'd be glad to help. You have a good one. Peace.